Okay, let's have a look into this. By the way, I already marked those if conditions over there to make it a little bit more easier to follow afterwards. Alright, so we've got our method, check high score. We've got a parameter, we've got this capital L, which means we've got a class reference, and the class reference is player. But this time it's from Smiley1, but do not get distracted by this. The player class looks pretty identical to what we have seen in the last video. And then we are returning in void. Okay, then we've got two local variables. Can be placeholder, can be certain values. We do not know this right now. Here we get our label for our parameter, p1. So we've got an object from the class player, and this object is named player. Let's write this down. p1 is our object and it's player. Then we've got iGet, which means we are putting an instance field from p1 into v0. Our instance field is player.score from type integer. And this is now going to be put into v0. Let's put it down. Alright, next we've got an instance field once again, but this time into v1. Let's see. p1 is also now an instance field and it's referenced by player.highscore from type integer. And this is going to be put into v1. Alright, this looks pretty identical as the last example, but now it's different. So what do we have here? We've got an if statement. If v0 is greater equal v1, we jump to this condition over here. Let's write this down. If v0 is greater equal v1, then we jump to this condition over here. And here we have directly afterwards again another if statement. So in this case we are having if v0 is less equal v1. We jump to this condition. Okay, if v0 is less than equal v1, we jump to this condition. Let's see. We jump down here and then we are simply returning void. So we're getting out of this function. Alright, that was okay, I guess. Okay, this is for the true statements for both if statements. Let's go backwards slowly. So we go into line 18 in this one. And now we are doing the same for the false statement. So if v0 is less or equal v1, we jump to this condition. This is the true part. Now we assume it's false. Therefore, we move on directly underneath. We've got this reference in our Java code, line 41, okay? And now we can see, okay, we are putting this value into an instance field. But now it's interesting because we do not have p1 at this point. We are having p0. And we can see com app hacking Smiley1 player. So this time we are using not this object, we are using the this part. So this means p0 this.highscore. So let's do this step by step. The first part is we introduce our else case for this one. Okay. And now we are putting v0 into p0. p0 is this.highscore, and yeah, we are putting v0 into this. This means this.highscore is equals v0, and v0 is player.score. So we are putting player.score into this.highscore. This is pretty important, and I created this case to confuse you a little bit about this, that you do not interpret your own stuff into this, that we follow simply the strict rules of the Smiley code. Okay, so here we are having an object in our player class. Okay, so here we are having an object as a parameter, the player object as parameter. But now we are referencing to this.player. This is now the player class. So we are within our player class. But if you write this down in the exact same way, you shouldn't have any struggle with this. It might be a little bit confusing, but just remember p0 is our this operator and p1 is our object over here. Okay, let's see. So we also got this case right now. That's great. The last case we got to solve is this one over here. This has been true. Now let's put this to false. Easy peasy. We get our else statement, and this else statement simply got a return over here. This return void. And that's it. This is our code, and this one is, yeah, this is corrected, this part. Now let's get out our Java code, because this might have confused you a little bit. I'm not sure about this one. For me, it would be absolutely confusing. So we've got two player objects here. This one is a parameter, and this one over here is our this. Let's see how the code looks like. Okay, and once again we can see this one over here. The first check is if player score is less than player.highscore. And in our case, our first check is greater equal. But it's still correct because our else statement will be the case if we are having v0 lower than v1. This is this statement over here, and then we are returning out. So we got it again vice versa. And here let's see, also the same for this one over here. Our else statement is this one over here, and here we are having the statement which is returning out. So this statement here is greater than player.highscore, but in our case we are checking if we are having the other case. If it's less or equal, then we jump out. So out of this one. Okay, so if you reverse engineer Smiley code and if statements, my advice is not looking into JDX. Maybe just a little bit to get some knowledge about what's used in there. But please do not rely on this. This will confuse you a lot if you reverse engineer the Smiley part regarding to this. Just simply ignore what you have seen in the JDX code regarding to these if statements and simply do it in the Smiley part step by step. Then you shouldn't have any trouble. Alrighty, next we have some little quiz, and afterwards we take a look at patching those if instructions. Because you can do a lot of funny things to change the statement itself or simply skip parts in the statement. So it's pretty ridiculous what's possible there, and that the code is still working even if you do some really crazy patching. Okay, that's all for this video right now. If you're not feeling comfortable regarding to if statements, please keep practicing this within Android Studio. In case of any questions, feel free to write me a message, and otherwise I'm looking forward to see you at the quiz.